I'm Cristina Nájera. Welcome to Freedom with Web3 podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Constantin is an entrepreneur. He has been in the space for since 2012 and he loves to learn. He holds a PhD in sociology. So we are going to discover a lot today. And with that, I would love to know, how did you start your crypto journey?
So that started in 2012, 13. I was a futures and commodity trader. I was hedging positions, futures and, grains mostly. So I was selling physical grain from Ukraine. This is where I'm originally from. I was born and raised in Kiev, and Ukraine is a big agricultural exporting country. So it's a big player in the world. So we've uh, we've explored a lot of commodities, and therefore there was a need to kind of hedge this risk of, if there's a bad crop, or let's say the government is doing some new corrupt thing. So there was a lot of risks entailed with it. So I was, trading, and that's how I've learned about forex, and then later about Bitcoin. So my good friend told me, like, there's this esoteric asset class called Bitcoin. You have to invest. So I've invested I bought 5 Bitcoins back in the days, and of course sold them multiple times, but that was my start of a journey. That was my excitement. It came from a speculative place, and I didn't fully understand the depth of the idea that it's a peer-to-peer payment network, and there's such a profound philosophy behind it, right? So it took me 2 to 3 years to only learn that there's much deeper levels. So then I moved in 2014. I moved to United States in New York, and fast forward in 2017, I became a partner in first fund of funds in crypto space, Bidbull Capital. So for someone who's not familiar with the fund of fund business, so we actually due diligenced other hedge funds, and our strategy was to invest in them. So we invested in Pantera, in Polychain, in Metastable, and many other big crypto hedge funds. Uh, Throughout the lifetime of the fund, we looked at 800 plus different crypto hedge funds. So when you look at their strategy, their performance, and how do they even exist as a business, that gives you a lot of important intel. And you're all of a sudden becoming on the top of the hierarchy, this entire, I would say, life cycle of all the investments, because you deploy to hedge funds deploy to projects, etc. Right? So that was an incredible journey, and I've learned a lot. Very grateful for this experience. Then I became a managing director in Wave Financial, which was, I would say, an asset manager with versatile strategies. We had an IRA license. It's a registered investment advisor, which is very highly compliant license. We have two major licenses in the United States, which is a broker dealer and IRA. So you have an opportunity to take money under management and get officially take fees from this. So we did a lot of treasury management business. We did VC funds, index funds. We created a lot of structured products. One of the fun thing we did, we actually tokenized whiskey distillery, Kentucky bourbon. It was the first. Now we call it with a fancy word RWA, real world assets. Back in the days, it was just an experiment, and it allowed for the people who love whiskey to get into the fractional ownership of the distillery. So their challenge was you finance us for 5 years ahead because you put in a barrel, right? And it has to, stay there to actually become drinkable, right?
Yeah.
So it requires a lot of financial, support in advance, right? So people who were big fans, they couldn't enter this business before, right? Because, the threshold was in millions. So we did a lot of experiments. And then fast forward, I'm co-founded Bullperks, which is the centralized VC and a launchpad, and then GameSpad, which is gaming ecosystem, and we invested in 70 plus projects, and that allowed me to kind of also look from A to Z, how the projects come from the idea stage to the moment when they're listed on crypto exchanges. And as you know, right now, since like early this year, I become partner at Trade Group, where we have also very different operations. We have an incubator, 80 plus companies incubated, 3 unicorns produced. We have a venture arm, early stage tokens only. We have a market making arm. We have a prop trading and research arm, and now building also wealth management, so to speak, like, we call it smart liquidity layer. So yeah, all of this in between, I was researching, what's happening in the industry. I wrote 6 research papers, hundreds of articles. As you also know, I did 80 plus podcast episodes with top thought leaders in the industries, ranging from Michael Saylor, Tim Draper, Dan Moorhead, and many other great names. Became friends with top thought leaders and learned a lot from them. And my passion was to share this knowledge with others. Like, so in a nutshell, this is like the short version of the journey.
Yes, because to get into your life, we need maybe hours. And thank you for making it simple. And for you, first, what is freedom?
I think the most beautiful gift as human beings that we have is the freedom of choice. Now, this is more on a philosophical level. I can talk about it for hours and hours. Like, one of my favorite philosophers, actually, who was very keen on, like, Mirab Mamardashvili, who is a Georgian Socrates. Like, he lived in a very interesting time of during the Soviet Union era, where you have limited capacity to express, like, what you think, but his thought, like, were so profound, so deep, that, like, I think what happened is, like, most of the, like, people who were supposed to censor him, that he just didn't understand the depth, so they didn't touch him, right? So and he's one of his definitions of freedom, which was very close and dear to my heart. He was a big fan of Descartes, of Kant, and he just explained that, like, the ability to think is where the freedom starts. And I would add to it, like, to think critically. The next level is when you have an opportunity to surround yourself with people who empower you to be free. And what does it mean? We have a responsibility on a civil level. We live in societies, like, you live in Dubai, let's say I live in New York. There are people who live in their own, like, communities in different parts of the world. They have to trust the state, right? The state can give you either to empower you to have a more free society, or to take away this opportunity. We talked about a little bit before we started the podcast. And autocratic regimes, they create a vision, like an illusion of freedom, where essentially just controlled, like, powerhouse, which is centrally controlling all the decisions. And it's a surveillance state, big surveillance state, with an illusion of freedom. Now, in democracies which can be less efficient, like, I would say US is a great example, where you have a freedom of speech, but sometimes it's not super efficient, right, to make any decisions whatsoever, because there's too many opinions, right? So that is where it starts. Now, the third layer, obviously, is the freedom of finance, right? Where you can move your assets, your money, like, you don't have to ask anyone permission. Now, here's where I would say crypto lies very strongly with my personal values. Like, I think I'm not a maximalist, right? I'm somewhere in the middle, right? Because I think, like, the centralized finance and decentralized, they can coexist, right? Because you still need regulators to protect the retail investors, predominantly retail, from scammers. And unfortunately, in our industry, that's, like, we have those a lot. So, but at the same time, we need to have this synergy where the innovation is being propelled and is being given the opportunity to thrive. Now, one of the biggest challenges, like, which, like, in emerging markets specifically, you're coming from Latin America, I'm coming from Europe, like Eastern Europe, where we experience challenges, like, in getting into, like, developed economies. To buy a stock or a treasury bill from Ecuador or Ukraine, or from Venezuela or from Argentina or from other, like, developing countries, it's actually a very challenging task. Most of the people who live in, say, like, in developed economies like Germany, Japan, the United States, they don't understand this pain.
Yeah.
So, so this is where it starts: the fractional ownership and the ability to access the market. So the access for the global economy is number one. So I think the stable coins and the, like, the crypto itself as an asset class is an incredibly important innovation to give the global access to any asset class. And we see with, real world assets being tokenized, I think, first of all, I think everything will be tokenized. This is like, I want to be clear, like stating it, like record it. Like, so they, because do you know like how much assets like already like are virtual? Like, for example, how much cash are there, like in the percentage wise? Do you want to take a guess? Just curious.
Wow, that's a very good question. I think same. Like I think everything will be tokenized because we all want to own things, and that's the beauty of Web3. Because everybody asks me, "What's Web3? What's the difference between Web1, Web2, and Web3?" And that's when I agree with you, because I think Web1 is when you can read something, right? We are interacting just by reading. Web2 is when you can read and you can engage and you can add whatever you have, right? You can put a picture on your Instagram, you can write an article and put it on somewhere, and that's it. And the beauty of Web3 is that you can own, and that's when you tokenize something, right? So that's, I think, the beauty of that.
My point was like, so roughly, like according to the last research, like of the global like cash reserves in the world, like, it depends country by country, but in average is 8%.
Wow.
So think about it: 92% of all the money in the world are already digital. It's zeros and ones on our interface, whether like any bank, whether like it's HSBC or Chase Bank, Bank of America, or any other bank in the world. You just look at the interface and you see a number.
Yes.
It's a digital number. You don't actually hold this cash. You pay online, and all the governments, they're actually trying to digitize their economies like in the most fastest way possible. Now, what it means that we're not actually completely changing the world. People who think that the crypto is like, oh wow, it's such an innovation. It is an innovation which is on a database, and it's on a technical level, an incredible like innovation. But let's not go there. To simplify it, think about it as a different database on the back end that you don't even care about.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about like what, like is DBS, Standard Charter, or Bank of America are running on AWS. Regular retail users don't even like ask this question when they open a bank account. So to simplify it, the ability to move your money freely, like if you wanna, let's imagine you are right now coming back home, or you need to send money, like you want to send $100,000, right? If you were to do it through a banking system, they would ask you a lot of questions. Oh, do you have a contract between the two entities? Like, oh, well, like what is the source of funds? Like, do you need to prove this, prove that? With like any cryptos, starting from Bitcoin, Ethereum, or stablecoins, you don't need to ask a question. In 20 seconds, like, the money are there. And I think that is the beauty that we haven't had before. I think it's super important, just this particular act of freedom, that you are the ruler. You're the master of your wealth. And you can actually, like now with like your hard wallet as a bank, hold it as a Swiss bank account in your pocket and travel around the world with millions of dollars. So that's another innovation, and it's another like incredible like beauty that we as an industry show to the world. Now, of course, there are other challenges which, the way we, I would say, convey the message sometimes is like can be done much better in terms of user experience, in terms of the language, and that's what we're working on. For example, in TDX, like we as a company trying to simplify it for regular users, right, who don't need to learn the complex lingo of the degens, like who don't need to learn what is a TPL, right? So simple decisions, simple user journey, and access to one of the safest tokenized assets in the world. I think this is the future.
Constantin, can Web3 bring more freedom?
Obviously, the short answer is like this is it's already happening, right? So, and I think it will be bring more and more freedom. And I would really hope that people who understand this, they will unite. So us as like global citizens of the world, irrespective of which country you're in, that you will try to foster like this economy. That you will try to fight for the rights for us to have a voice. I mean, again, example in the United States, 50 million crypto holders are now a pretty significant like voice in the society. Like you see presidential candidates goes and they speak at crypto conferences. They want to win the hearts and minds of people who are representing such a huge superpower. So, and I hope this percentage will grow. I hope people will unite, not just in national interest, that they will see an interest of us as people who represent like the opportunity to spread this freedom and this beautiful right to control our wealth.
Yes, 100%. Thank you so much, Constantine. It was a pleasure having you here. How people can find you, how people who want maybe to invest in your projects, who want to get investment, who want to contribute with what you're doing, where they can find you and where can they see what you are doing?
Well, it's actually pretty easy. I'm available in LinkedIn, Twitter, Telegram. Like, you can like if you Constantin Kogan, you can just like Google my name, you will see like a lot of like links and I'm very responsive. Like you can always find my email on the YouTube channel, or you can just DM me directly in LinkedIn or Twitter, like whatever works best for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Constantine. It was a pleasure having you here. And thank you for watching. Remember to share this with your friends because everybody deserves to know more about Web3, AI, cryptocurrency, and blockchain. I'm Cristina Nájera. See you next time.